Hi. Over the last few weeks, I've been playing around with consultation data. So this is the stuff that again comes out of public consultations. So commentary, actual statements people have made, things they've said in some of these meetings. So these are, think of your typical town hall forums or sort of these working group meetings, those sorts of things. So as Bianca was mentioning, there's an open data set on the poverty reduction strategy consultations that happened last year. So you can pull that off and you can sort of play around with it. So I've been doing this sort of on the side of my desk. So totally is just a bunch of random musings because I really wasn't sure what I could do with this, but I just sort of wanted to talk a little bit about sort of what I did do. So I mean, the general sort of concept is that consultations actually happen all the time, right? The city's always going out doing these sort of consultations, asking questions, trying to figure out what people want to see around a whole variety of different things, right? From planning applications to poverty strategies to economic strategies and the like. What's really interesting, I find, is that within a lot of those, there's a lot of lived experience and ideas that come out. So people are actually coming out to you and telling you really what's going on with their lives, how do they experience the city, how do they see the city. And so the thing is, though, is that often the data is gathered, but if the information is not pertinent to the question that the city is actually looking for, because people will come out and tell you everything, right? It doesn't really get used. And so my question is then, well, can we not get deeper insights from this data if we dug a little bit deeper and tried to pull out the stuff that was not used in the final report, but is still an important insight, right? Because it's still a very important lived experience. So could that actually be done? So looking at the poverty reduction strategy data, again, all open data. So there was one piece called the Days of Dialogue where they did meetings at, I think it was 10 different locations around the city, different community centers and spaces. So I looked at two data sets that I focused on. One was 30 Sewells Road, all the comments basically that were collected at two sites. One was 30 Sewells Road, which is in Malvern, and 1 York Road, which is in the Etobicoke-Dixon area. And so all of this, of course, was used to inform the policy themes. And so if you read the report, the TO Prosperity Report, it talks about a lot of the stuff at a sort of a policy level, high level, that sort of thing. But again, I feel that there's a lot of really interesting insights that you can dig into, pull out, and see if we can actually do some further investigating or deeper dialogue around that. So one thing that's just kind of fun is you can always do word frequency analysis with this stuff. So I dumped the comments into a word counting program. So what's interesting is sort of just even within these two sort of different locations, you start to see that there is a difference in sort of the priorities, or at least in terms of frequency of different types of words that come up. So on the right is, again, the Malvern group, and so there's more emphasis on employment, food, youth, programs, right? Housing doesn't seem to come up as much, but on the left, though, it does, right? You'll see housing, jobs, services, kids, community. And part of that is, I think, sort of if you look at some of the census data of those particular census tracts, you start to see that the amount of youth, the percentage changed quite significantly. So I think that partly is what's driving it. But of course, we can always dig a little bit deeper into that sort of quantitative data to sort of verify what's the information or what's the needs that are coming out of those differing communities. And again, these are just examples. So another thing you can do is these data analysis tools that they have, like sentiment analysis, topic extraction, and word clustering. So the idea of whether or not a comment is positive or negative or neutral. Topic extraction is just basically dumping out keywords from a list of comments. Word clustering is how closely those words are aligned to each other. I use this website called Meaning Cloud. It works and then it kind of doesn't work, basically is the short answer. For a lot of this stuff to work, as I understand it, for the algorithms to work, the text has to be a lot longer rather than single line comments. And a lot of the stuff was written in point form, so sometimes it doesn't actually catch the nuance within that. And of course also there's language nuance itself, like sarcasm or irony, which the system doesn't really actually do a very good job of figuring out. But what I think is maybe useful for is for generating keywords to tag the comments. And I'll get back to this in a second because it's part of this general idea I have around could we actually take all this consultation data and put it into one giant database. 1 minute. Okay, so last piece, basically, insight generation. Comments kind of come in different shapes and sizes. There's this idea that people come to you and they articulate these highfalutin principles of what they think the city should be doing. There's people that come and actually just give you lived experience type comments. There's people that come and give you a brand new idea that they've thought of, or they have more questions. So from that, I was able to segment out the data just based on my own eyeballing of it. into different, those 4 categories. And if you pull out sort of the lived experience and the ideas, you start to get some really interesting insights. And here's a few of them that I think may or may not have been caught by the report, but like this idea of temp agencies are a ripoff and not beneficial. Recruiters only recruit people who are already employed. Licensing to work in certain fields are tied to certain employers, and it feels like a chicken and egg problem. I can't get the license until I get the job, but I need the job to get the license kind of thing. Have more faith groups deliver community services was a suggestion that was made. So the point is that like these are, I think, interesting insights that came out of some of these comments. Much of this has to be further investigated. I don't know how true any of this stuff is, but to me, that's a starting point for, I think, a more detailed design process to actually go through and say, that actually is an interesting lived experience. Let's kind of dig a little bit deeper into that and figure out what's the story there kind of thing. So anyways, what I think we can do with this, let's start to aggregate this stuff. I think it would be really cool if we could like pull all this stuff together in one giant database, develop a taxonomy and start to catalog it. You can run frequent analysis and source issues and problems for further design or investigation down the line. And I think this part here, send reports to relevant city departments. It'd be really cool if you could actually just send a report to a department that didn't do the consultation, but just be like, did you know they're saying this about you? Or did you know that this is an issue you might want to start addressing related to this? And I feel that might be some interesting insights. And also the other piece is around better understanding the user experience of living in the city. Like we could start to overlay like quantitative measures, start to overlay social media data that we're capturing on like Twitter or like Instagram or Facebook. And then also I think one of the better benefits too is also minimizing over-consultation. Sometimes multiple departments will go and consult in the same community and then people become over-consulted because like, you asked me this kind of already. It's a similar question you asked me about a few months ago, so let's not try and do that as much. So anyways, that's me. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to tweet me or send me an email. Thanks.